Hello learners, welcome to my lecture on multi-party system in France. I'm Nazrana Sheikh, Assistant Professor from Carmel College of Nouwen Goa. In this lecture, you will understand the evolution of multi-party system in France, features of multi-party system in France, and the reasons why France has multiplicity of parties. And at the end of the lecture, you'll understand the growth of multi-party system in France, describe the features of party system in France, and understand the reasons for multiplicity of parties in France. Let us understand now evolution and features of multi-party system in France. Evolution. Political parties as definite organizations based on precise political program, there were none in France until the end of the 19th century. It took about 100 years of political activity with 50 years of universal suffrage for the conflict of ideas to find channel of expression. And a novel feature of the French Constitution is that it gives constitutional recognition to political parties and allows them to be freely formed and carry on their activities subject to the requirement that they must respect the principles of national sovereignty and democracy. France has witnessed many political upheavals and experimented with different forms of government, each time beginning with new. Beginning from 1975, France had been a republic on 3 different occasions, an absolute monarchy, a constitutional monarchy, and twice an empire. Political parties cannot exist and develop unless there is something approaching a consensus. It is only with the beginning of the 20th century, the French as a nation have reconciled themselves to the republican form of government as permanent institution. Even in the years immediately preceding the Second World War, there were groups of royalist and fascist extremists who would have liked the republican government to do away. The communists now constitute a powerful and a well-organized party in France, and these parties too adhere to republican form of government. Since the beginning of the Fifth Republic, established in 1958, party system in France has undergone a transformation. Some parties have disappeared, others have combined under a single name and amalgamated their organization into one. It may be said that in the Fifth French Republic, the party system in France has moved from a loose and almost describable configuration of parties to a streamlined system. No doubt it is still a multi-party system with a breakaway groups of federation. However, 3 parties, the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, and the Gaullist, have been the main political parties of the Fifth Republic. Now let us understand the features of the multi-party system in France. France has multi-party system, one in which large number of competing political parties is sufficiently large as to make it almost inevitable that in order to participate in exercise of power, any single party must be prepared to negotiate with one or more with a view of forming electoral alliances or coalition agreements. Multiplicity of parties is an important feature of French party system. In general election, what may be labeled as national parties, they number anything from 12 to 20 and are also number of less important formation, some local, some consisting little more than label attached to some personality or special interest. Between 9 and 15 are normally represented in the assembly. Constitutional recognition to the role of parties. Unlike the American Constitution, which is totally silent about the role of political parties, the French Constitution accepts the role of political parties and political groups. Article 4 of the French Constitution reads, "Parties and political groups play a part in the exercise of the right to vote. The right to form parties and their freedom of action are unrestricted. They must respect the principle of national sovereignty and democracy. Third, diversity in organization and policies. The organization and policies of different parties exhibit great diversities in France. The parties cover a very large range, extending from commission on the left to anti-parliamentary and even fascist groups on the extreme right. Some of the parties attach great importance to political parties and doctrines, while others have no agreed principles or even coherent policies. Some of the parties are very well organized, while others have loose organization. For example, the leftist parties are highly organized, while the right-wing parties have no permanent organizations outside the assembly. Fluidity. Parties in France come and go in bewildering numbers. After the World War II, a number of parties were born while some disappeared. Some of the groups which take their birth at the time of elections disappear after two or one assembly sessions. During the initial years of the Fifth Republic, the Algerian crisis brought new parties and divided the older ones. Almost all parties except the communists had break away. Once the crisis was over, the splinter groups either faded into oblivion or went back to their old orientations. Fifth, adherence to personality cult. Another unique feature of the French party system is that most of the parties revolve around the personalities of their respective leaders. For popular support, members of the party depend upon the personality of their leader or some leaders. The leader is the source of party unity. The members are united because of common allegiance to a particular leader. Political defections and frequent changes. In another way, French party system is quite similar to Indian party system. In France, the evil practice of political defection prevails. Frequently, the members of one political party defect to another or other political parties. A number of political parties of France have similar ideologies, and that is why the members of one political party do not hesitate to defect or join another political party. In the words of Dorothy Pickles, I quote, French parties come and go in bewildering numbers, sometimes within a very short time, unquote. Leftist and rightist parties. Almost all the French political parties can be categorized under two heads, leftist parties and rightist parties. The leftist parties have socialist leanings. They favor state control over industry and state intervention in the planned economy. The rightist parties are opposed to both these above measures. However, many rightist parties support state action for helping small and uneconomic producers. The Communist Party and the Socialist Party belong to the leftist group, and the Conservative and the Central Democratic Party belong to the rightist group. Let us now understand why France has multiplicity of parties. First is the French temperament. A Frenchman by temperament is more a philosopher with idealistic conceptions in life. He thinks of politics in intellectual rather than practical terms and holds strongly to his views. Such a mindset creates political fanatics to reconcile to practical politics where compromise is needed for realizing the common end. Second, France had a turbulent history. In 1791, monarchy was overthrown and Republic set up. 1799, Napoleon became the first consul, and in 1804, he became the emperor. In 1814, a new monarchy was set up. In 1870, a republic was established. As a result, there grew several groups, some pro-monarchy and some pro-republic. Revolutionary habits. There is in France what Claude Bryce calls a legacy of revolutionary habits. And this anarchic tendency leads to resentment of authority, reluctance to work as a team, to sink one's personality into an autonomous unit that is the party. An average French voter does not relish the idea of being yoked to the program and policy of a party. He does not like party discipline. Any attempt to control and regulate his political conduct is deemed to be an invasion on his freedom. French economic stability. Another important factor which has contributed toward multiplicity is the French economic stability, or some would say economic stagnation. The traditional economy of France is one of small enterprises in both agriculture and industry. It is a country of small towns and villages, scattered farms and small one-man or family business. They think of politics as symbols and doctrine rather than of concrete policies. With this, you understand why France has multiplicity of parties. For further reading, you may refer to following online and offline resources. Thank you.